I mean, I've helped folks raise children. And every time they had a problem, they'd come to me with a problem. And I've tried to help, and I've always tried to help, and been the pastor and loved the kids and tried to make something out of them when the kids grow up. And maybe one little thing will happen, and the whole family get mad and leave the church. You said, does that affect you? Breaks my heart. Really. You say, Brother Hyles, I wish I had a heart like yours. I wish I didn't care what folks think. Now, you had a heart like mine, you'd care what folks think. If you had a heart like mine, you'd cry when folks don't love you. If you had a heart like mine, you'd be sorry when people turn on you. But you say, Brother Hyles, you ever get to the place where you say, okay, hang it all. I'm not going to be used like this anymore. No. Had it do over again. I do it all over again. All over again. Why? I want to be used. If Brother Hyles, folks take advantage of you, I want you to take advantage of me. Well, Brother Hyles, folks, you're a sucker. I know. I want to be a sucker. Listen, I only have one life to live, and I don't want to live it bitter and seeking vengeance, and I don't want to get those that... I know some folks despitefully use me. I know it. I recommend preachers all the time to churches, and then sometimes many of them won't even have me, and they criticize me. Down East Texas one time, I went down to... way out in the country, made a visit, and won a family to Christ. They came out to our church. I won the young man to Christ when he was a boy. I taught him everything about the Bible he knew. I won other family to Christ. They had a lovely daughter, and the boy fell in love with this daughter. And I got them together, and I performed the ceremony, and licensed and ordained and preached. And now he's a missionary on the foreign field. He comes back to the States. He sees me. He won't even speak to me. You know why? I'm not his brand of Baptist. And he won't speak to me. He says, Hyles, you bitter about it? No, I'm not bitter about it. Well, Brother Hyles, how do you feel about it? I thank God I got to win his family and got to win her family and got to teach him and got to train him. You say you're happy because he doesn't speak? No, I'm very unhappy because he doesn't speak. And I'm very sad because he won't speak. And I'm very sad because he doesn't love me anymore. Well, you say, boy, you learned your lesson. Yeah, I learned my lesson. I learned it's worth it. When I left Garland to come up here, my heart broke. The last night we were there, I drove around all night long. Drove to house after house and sat out in front of the houses and cried. Well, I thought I couldn't cry anymore. My heart hurt and it broke, and I thought I could not take it any longer. And when we left to come here, I got out of the car at the set limit sign and got on my knees and said, I can't leave these people. I've won them all to Christ. They're my babies. I took over the church when we had 44 people, and now we have 4,129, and I can't leave it, and then my heart broke. And I came up here, and I said, I'll never fall in love with the church again. I won't do it. I don't want to hurt like that anymore. But I've done gone and fallen in love again. In fact, I'm more in love with this church than any church I've ever had in my life. And you see, Brother Hyles, someday you may be hurt again. I'd rather, who was it said, Shakespeare, better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. And it's better to love and hurt. Yeah. Somebody said, you got too close to David, you're going to have to give him up one of these days. And you're going to break your heart. Yeah. I choked up when I left the house Friday morning. Sure. I choked up and looked up in the window of where his room was for 17 years. Sure, I choked up. I choked up Thursday night when I went upstairs and he had his clothes, taking him out of the house. Sure, I did. Let me tell you something. And you don't forget this. Brother, to get to serve mankind and get to love people and get to care for people, that's all the joy we have a right to in life anyway. And if a broken heart comes along with it, I'll take a broken heart. And if somebody turns their back on me and I get to serve mankind, let them turn their back. I'll weep and get up and say, blessed God, somebody got to use me and somebody used me again. Somebody said, well, Brother Hyles, he'll ditch you when he gets through with you. You'll forgive me, but I don't help people so they can say thank you. I help folks cause they're in trouble. If that little girl over here on the aisle here, Cindy, please take the baby out right this minute, please. And use the nursery if you would tonight. Quickly, ushers, help her out. Usher, quickly, just help her out the place quickly. That's right. We're glad to have people here, but please use the nurseries. Right in the, we need to be heard. This is a philosophy here that most people never learn, and you need to learn it. You need to learn it. if that little girl over there on the aisle, Cindy Hyles, if she grows up and becomes a good Christian and serves God and is clean and decent and lives in the will of God, and she puts me in a rest home somewhere, and she never comes to see me and never writes a letter to me, I'll shout and praise God all the time I'm there, because I got to be used of God to make something out of her. If Becky Hyles were to get to the place to where she never has anything to do with her dad, and she won't even own me, and she says, he's my dad, but I won't own him, I'll disown him, I never get a letter from her. She puts me off at some rest home to rot and decay. Never a Christmas present, never a letter, never a card, never a phone call. And if she's still a fine preacher's wife and serves God and has a bus route like she does now, and if Linda Hyles gets the place where she does the same thing, and if David Hyles gets the place where he's too busy for his dad, but he's a faithful preacher like he is now, he loves God, he loves this book. I didn't raise those kids to make me feel good when I got old. Raise them so they'd serve God and be in the will of God. So they'll use you. Let them use me. God give us a delight to be used of God and be used of others. Somebody said, well, I'm not going to be a servant. I'm not going to be your servant. Yeah, you're going to be a miserable wretch the rest of your life, too. Make me a servant. I'll be your servant. Sometimes some father will say, well, I work my hand to the bone, and I provide and provide. I sometimes kid the kids about that. You know, I'll walk in, Cindy will hit me in the stomach, you know, and I'll say, don't lift up your hand against God's anointed. And she'll hit me in the stomach, and I'll say, yeah, I'm an old man now. When I was young and handsome, I said, you love me, and I've worked my hands to the bone, provided for you, provided in all these years, all I've done, and now what I get, a hit in the stomach, and so forth. But it may be that way. It may be, I'm not going to be a servant and be run over. Folks that run over the happiest people. I'm saying folks that are used are the happiest people. I'm saying folks that are willing to realize that someday, though you may be used, you may be entertaining an angel unaware and not know about it. They're the happiest people. Somebody said, well, the Hyles, they don't appreciate you. I'm not trying to get appreciated. I'm trying to serve people. But they don't, Brother Hyles, they didn't even say thank you. Now, I love a thank you. I love those little notes. I love the little kids that stay in the nursery on Saturday, coming down the door while we're having an executive meeting of the college board, and they'll scream out there, "We love you, Brother Hyles!" And I scream back, "I love you too!" And I like that. Anybody's got any sense likes that. But I tell you what, if they don't give it, I'm still going to serve them. And if they don't write little notes and stick them under the door, I'm still going to serve them. And if they don't write hugs and kisses, X's and zeros, and put them under the door, I'm still going to serve them. You know how? They ever disappoint you? Yeah. I've had several come to my office, little girls that used to jump up in my arms when they were little kids about 2 and 3 years old and say, "You're the best teacher in the whole world." And I say, "I know it." And they kiss me, and I like to say, "Kiss me on the cheek." I did this the other day to the best man and the ring bearer at the rehearsal. I said, when I say 3, Trina, you kiss this cheek. And Todd, when I say 3, you kiss this cheek. I put my hand behind their head and went, 1, you ready? You ready? 2, 3. I pull back, and they kiss each other. You say, boy, you're trying to get the 3 and 3-year-olds to kiss now. Yeah, but you got to stop when you get 10, I'll tell you for sure. And I'll say sometimes, when I say 3, kiss this cheek. 1, 2, 3. I'll turn like that, and they'll be coming at me, and they'll get me right in the mouth. I said the cheek, not the mouth. And, okay, ready? Yeah, okay. 1, 2, 3. And I turn about the time they start coming, I turn my face, and they get me in the mouth. I said the cheek, not the mouth. And, you know I love the kids. I was looking at these young ladies down here. Fellas, look at these young ladies. Look at the grace and charm. Look how they're sitting. God pity this short-wearing, bikini-wearing, pant-wearing, pagan generation. They'll take one good look at decent young ladies who've been trained right, and watch them grow up. And then the mother comes and says, "Brother Hyles, my daughter is not. She's in trouble. My daughter, she's rebelling. Or my daughter got kicked out of school." And they come to my office, and they have a hard look on their face, and you can always see it. You can always see it. Have a hard look on their face. And they're rebelling against Mom and Dad, and they'll look at me with a brazen look. And I remember those days when those same little eyes sparkled and Brother Hyles came by. and those same little lips through which now come words of criticism about the preacher and what he believes and what we stand for and about our schools. Those are the same little lips used to kiss me on the cheek and say, I love you, preacher. And those same hands that grip there like this and hold taut like this, those same little hands used to pat me on the cheek and say, you're the best preacher in the whole world. So how do you feel about it? I've cried buckets of tears over it, but I'm still going to keep on loving the little girls. And thank God. You say, well, Brother Hyles, did they ever say thanks? Hey, just a few of these young people down here like we have. That's all the thanks I want. You just give me every once in a while, like that little girl that came to the office and said, Brother Hyles, I'm going to have a baby. And she's one of our Sunday school girls here. I'm going to have a baby. And I said, okay. I'm sorry, and I cried, but I said, I'm not going to turn on you. I said, you come by every Saturday afternoon, and we'll have about 30 minutes together every Saturday afternoon. She was about 3 months pregnant. She came by every Saturday for 6 months. And she started getting bigger, you know, and she'd come in, and I'd laugh at her. And I'd say, I just got a telegram about you, so I offered you a job. She said, what? I said, the Chicago Bears want you to play tackle on the football team. And she'd laugh and laugh, and every Saturday I prayed with her. And I became her dad, and she called me Dad. And she got to where she looked forward to coming, and we'd laugh and pray and have a good time together. And she knew she couldn't keep the baby. And I found a home, a way for the baby. And she went to the hospital up here and gave birth to the baby and never saw it. And somebody has the baby now. And she comes in to see me. And at Christmas, she brought me a nice Christmas present, and she called me Dad. She said, well, the house, you ever get tired of being used? No, you give me one like that every once in a while, and I'll make it fine, thank you. You give me one like little Susan Veazey. She doesn't mind me calling her name.